I'm going to start a new file. Do you want to
Yes.
reread that?
Okay, on your 160 Q&A number 1, you have Dennis Halper. Mr. Halper, Buffalo, New York, Chicago, Kern Printing Company, Evanston, Willard Burton, Fred Shaw, Halper Press, Lake Street, and Foster Avenue.
Are you recording that one? The video?
Okay. Yeah, I hit record, but
I
where
mean
did it
video, I'm
go?
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
it's
it is. How do you know if it's recording?
where it says the little pause and stop recording.
Oh, okay. Okay, 160 Q&A, number 1 for 5 minutes. Ready? Will you state your name, please?
Dennis Halper,
How do you spell your last name?
Halper.
Mr. Halper, I am going to ask you some questions, and if at any time you do not understand a question, please say so.
Okay,
Mr. Halper, what is your present age?
I am 45.
What is the extent of your formal education?
I have had 2 years of college.
Were you born and raised in this area?
No, I was born in Buffalo, New York.
Did you receive all of your education in Buffalo?
Yes, I did.
When did you come to Chicago?
I came in February of 1977.
Did you come here to work or for family reasons?
I came here to work.
What kind of work did you do?
I was in sales work until 1985.
What did you do after that?
I went to work for the Kern Printing Company.
How do you spell that name?
Kern.
What did you do for them?
I was their general manager.
Where were they located?
They were located in Evanston
About how long did you work for the Kern Printing Company?
until the end of 1989.
How did you happen to leave that company?
I wanted to better myself, so I gave them a 90-day notice.
Then what did you do?
I went into business with Willard Burton and Fred Shaw.
What kind of business was it?
It was a printing business.
Did you set up a corporation?
Yes, we did.
What was the name of the corporation?
Halper Press.
All right. Where did you open this business?
At 800 Lake Street in Evanston.
Did you rent space at that location?
Yes, we did.
How long did you stay at that location?
I think it was around 2 years or a little under 2 years.
Just what was the nature of the business when you first started Halper Press?
We printed and sold labels of every description.
That is the same type of business that you were in at the time of the fire, is that correct?
That's correct.
Until today, have you ever been arrested for anything other than a traffic violation?
Nothing major? No.
Well, anything other than a traffic violation?
Yes. I went to collect some money that was owed me and I got into a fight. I was arrested for that and fined $50.
When was that?
Oh, it would have to be in 1991. It was shortly after the opening of the company.
And where did the arrest take place?
In Evanston.
Were you arrested for assault and battery?
No.
Was it for disturbing the peace?
Something like that?
Was it a business debt that you were trying to collect?
Yes.
Now, when you first opened the business, what was your ownership in the corporation? I mean, what percentage of the stock did you own?
Well, I think I agreed to 33%. I think that is the amount I subscribed to.
Did the other men that you mentioned before own some stock?
Yes.
Were you the majority shareholder?
No.
Who was the majority shareholder?
I don't think any one person was.
Well, did you own more shares than any one person?
No.
Who owned more shares than you did?
Fred Shaw.
What was your position with the corporation?
I was the vice president.
What were your duties?
Manufacturing.
In other words, you were in charge of the plant. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you have anything at all to do with sales?
Only on technical matters.
How did the size of the plant on Lake Street compare with the size of the building where the fire occurred?
Well, we started off with about 1/4 of the space.
When you started, did the corporation purchase equipment or did you lease equipment?
We purchased equipment.
You purchased it?
Yes.
And that was in 1991?
No, it was in 1990.
When did you move from Lake Street?
In 1992
Where did you move?
to 1246 Foster Avenue in Evanston.
That was the scene of the fire, is that right?
That's right.
Now, at the time you entered into a lease, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Halper, what was your position with the corporation when you moved to Foster Avenue?
I was the president.
What percentage of the stock did you own at that time?
I don't recall.
Would it have been more than 33%?
I don't think so.
As president, were you still in charge of the manufacturing end of the business?
I believe we had a man who was overseeing the plant.
And what were your duties? Okay. Now on your 160 number 2, you have, it continues. You have Foster Avenue, Alfred Prescott, Phyllis Prescott, Company Exhibit number 1, Mr. Prescott, Mr. Helper, Company Exhibit number 2, Merchandise National Bank, Central Avenue, Wilmette, Company Exhibit number 3, Home Acceptance Corporation, Company Exhibits 4 through 8, and Internal Revenue Service. Okay, this is your 160 Q&A number 2 for 5 minutes. Ready? When you rented the building at 1246 Foster Avenue, did you lease it from Alfred Prescott and his sister Phyllis Prescott?
Yes.
Do you recall the length of the lease?
I think it was for 5 years.
In other words, it would have run until June of 1997?
Yes.
Do you recall how much the rent was?
I think it was $900 a month.
I am going to show you what has been marked as Company Exhibit number 1 and ask you if that is the lease that was in effect at the time of the fire.
I believe so.
Now, at the top of the lease, there is the figure $1,800. What does that figure represent?
That was the amount of the deposit.
At the time of the fire, were you current on your rent?
I don't recall. I think we may have been.
Do you recall being in arrears for 2 or 3 months?
I don't think it was for 3 months.
Were you in arrears for any months?
I don't recall.
Did you deal with Mr. Prescott on the lease?
No, with his sister.
Did she have an office or did you deal with her at her home?
Usually she would stop by.
Mr. Halper, I now show you Company Exhibit number 2, which appears to be a statement for a trust at Merchandise National Bank. Is that a trust for some real property or what?
I believe it is.
What property?
I think that's my home.
All right. Where do you live?
I live at 2150 Central Avenue in Wilmette.
Who are the beneficiaries of that trust?
I guess the Merchandise National Bank.
Is this a land trust?
Yes.
Do you mean the real estate title is in the name of Merchandise National Bank?
I believe that's right.
And you say Merchandise National Bank is the beneficiary of the trust?
I think so.
Do they hold a mortgage on the house?
No, they don't.
Well, are they holding the beneficial interest as collateral for a loan?
That's right.
When did you take out that loan with Merchandise National Bank?
I think it was in 1985. I don't have the records here.
What was the balance of that loan at the time of the fire?
I think it was $65,000.
Was this loan made for business purposes?
Yes.
I now show you Company Exhibit number 3. This appears to be a mortgage statement from the Home Acceptance Corporation. Is that a statement of the mortgage on your home?
That's correct.
When did you take out that mortgage?
About 11 years ago, I believe.
So that would have been in 1997?
I believe that's right.
Is that when you bought your house?
Yes.
When did Merchandise National Bank take a beneficial interest in that property?
I guess when we got the loan from them.
I believe you said you got that loan in 1985. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But you didn't buy this property until 1987?
Did I say 1985?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I believe it was 1995.
So you bought your home and took out a mortgage with Home Acceptance Corporation in 1987, is that correct?
That's correct.
When you took out the loan at Merchandise National Bank, and at that time they became the beneficiary of a land trust, did you then advise Home Acceptance Corporation?
I didn't advise them. No,
Do you know if anybody advised them?
I can't state that anybody advised them.
Mr. Halper, I now show you these tax returns. They are from 1982 to 1996. They have been marked as company exhibits 4 through 8. I ask you if they are true and accurate representations of the tax returns that you filed with the Internal Revenue Service for those years.
They are not company tax returns.
They are your personal tax returns?
Yes,
Now, during the years represented by those tax returns, was your only source of income a salary from the corporation?
that's correct.
You are married, right?
Yes,
How many children do you have?
I have 3 children.
What are their present ages?
13, 17, and 23.
During the years 1992 through 1996, was your wife gainfully employed outside of the home?
No, not necessarily.
What do you mean by that?
Well, she would go out and get a job for a few months if she wanted to.
Mr. Halper, I notice your 1997 tax return is not here. Do you have that anyplace?
That's the one we couldn't find.
If I have an authorization form typed up for the 1990, okay. Okay, and on your 140 Q&A number 1, you have Mrs. Knox, Fred Jones, Mary L. Hobbs, and Craig Black. This is your 140 Q&A number 1 for 5 minutes. Is that what you said?
No, sir.
What did you say?
I told my mother I had an automobile accident.
You did not use the word another or additional or anything of that nature?
No, sir.
Do you recall overhearing any statements of Mrs. Knox or anyone else who was present at the scene of the accident?
No, sir.
What did Mrs. Knox do immediately after the incident, if you recall?
I can't really recall.
Did she appear to be shaken up?
Possibly.
You did not inquire of her whether she or her son was injured, is that correct?
No, sir. I did not.
Sir, as we sit here today, do you have an opinion as to who was at fault with respect to the incident?
No, sir.
So you are telling me that in your opinion, you don't think Mrs. Knox was at fault?
I believe in my heart that I don't believe the accident was totally my fault.
So you believe the accident was at least partially your fault?
Yes, sir.
And sir, I think you've stated in response to interrogatories that at that time you did not wear or have a prescription for glasses or contact lenses or anything of that nature regarding your vision?
No, sir.
Have you ever had prescriptive lenses or contact lenses prescribed for you?
No, sir.
Have you ever had a restriction on your license regarding your eyes or vision?
No, sir.
Do you recall what the weather conditions were like at the time of the incident?
Sunny, maybe overcast a little bit.
It was dry?
Yes, sir.
Pavement was dry?
Yes, sir.
Was the sun a factor in the incident as far as preventing you from being able to see oncoming traffic or anything of that nature?
No, sir.
Other than your eyesight, which we've already discussed, did you have any other medical problems at the time of the incident which may have contributed to the incident or contributed to your inability to safely operate a motor vehicle?
No, sir.
Were you on any medication, prescription or non-prescription at the time of the incident?
No, sir.
And sir, in response to your answers to interrogatories, you stated that you did not request medical treatment
No, sir.
following the incident.
No, sir, I did not.
Did you sustain any injuries for which you did not request medical treatment?
I got a slight neck spasm or whatever. It went away in a few weeks.
And sir, were you the owner of the vehicle you were operating at the time?
Yes, sir.
It's licensed in your name and titled in your name?
Yes, sir.
Sir, who repaired the property damage to your vehicle?
Fred Jones.
Do you recall what the bill was?
I believe it was like 35 or 33, somewhere in there.
Sir, there's two witnesses listed on the police report, Mary L. Hobbs and Craig Black. Do you know either of those individuals?
No, sir.
Sir, you were issued a citation as a result of this incident, were you not?
Yes, sir, I was.
Can you tell me how that citation was disposed of?
What do you mean disposed?
Was it dismissed? Did you pay a fine? Did you go to jail?
Okay, I paid the fine. I pleaded guilty.
You entered a plea of guilty?
Yes, sir.
Was there some reason why you entered a plea of guilty rather than because you were guilty? In other words, because you didn't want to mess with it, something of that nature.
I didn't want to fight it.
Now, sir, as we stated before, you were present when Mr. and Mrs. Knox gave their deposition testimony a couple of weeks ago. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you heard Mrs. Knox's account of the incident, at least as far as where the vehicles struck each other, where they ended up, where they were just prior to the incident, things of that nature. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And without getting into fault or anything like that, would you dispute what she had to say about where the vehicles were positioned and where her vehicle struck yours and things? Okay, and on your 140, number 2, you have Lester Cole, Lone City, Boot Hill Saloon, Don Schweit, and Mexican. This is 140 Q&A number 2 for 5 minutes. Ready? Would you state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Lester Cole, C-O-L-E.
Where do you live now?
Here in Lone City.
You lived here all your life?
Born and raised here.
During the month of May of this year, where were you working?
Boot Hill Saloon.
Okay. How long did you work at the Boot Hill?
I was there about 3 or 4 weeks.
Do you recall if you were working on the evening of May 5 of this year?
Yes, I was.
On May 5, did you have some contact with an individual by the name of Don Schweit?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Is that person that you and I refer to as Don Schweit in the courtroom with us here today?
Yes, he is.
Would you point to that person and tell me what he's wearing, please?
Sitting over there in a blue shirt.
Where did you first see Mr. Schweit?
In the bar.
Okay. What did you do at the Boot Hill?
I was head of security there.
And what was Mr. Schweit doing when you first saw him?
Well, they were sitting a little bit rowdy, him and his 2 friends. I had cut them off from drinking.
Do you recall about what time that was?
It was about 11 o'clock.
Did you have any conversation with him?
Other than telling him to settle down a couple times.
What happened then?
They continued to give the waitress a hard time and other customers a hard time.
Did you ask him to leave?
After I cut him off, they had come up and started arguing with me. And when the arguing started, They were telling me I had no right to do that. Then I asked him to leave.
Were there any physical contacts or anything exchanged at that point?
No, there wasn't.
Did Mr. Schweit leave then when you asked him to?
He left, come back, and left and come back. I couldn't keep him out.
Did there come a time when you had to escort him out one last time?
Yes, I did.
And what happened when you escorted him out?
Well, they kicked the door. Then they were in the little entryway right outside the bar. He urinated all over the outside of the bar, the sidewalk, cars. I mean, all over the place. And then I seen a knife.
Let me back up just a second here. On the way into the boot hill, you have to walk into the little entryway. Is that right?
There's two different entryways where the phones are and the indentation on the outside of the building.
Recessed area?
Right,
And then there's the little area where the phones are.
right.
Okay. Where was he peeing?
Outside of the building in the little indentation.
In the recessed area?
Recessed area, yes.
Okay. You said something about a knife.
That's when I seen the knife. He pulled it out of his right back pocket.
Can you tell me anything about that knife?
It was a butterfly knife. It was a dark color.
What did you do when he pulled that knife out?
He was trying to get me to come outside.
Where were you at this point?
I was inside the doors.
Were the doors open?
Exit door. No, there's a little bitty window in the front exit door. I was looking outside and watching them, what they were doing. He was trying to get me to come outside, calling me names.
Excuse me. Do you recall what he was saying? What kind of names he was saying?
Just calling me Mexican, asshole, big jerk, you know.
How long did that go on?
Oh, couple minutes.
At this point in your testimony, have you called for any sort of assistance?
After I had seen the knife, I went and called the police department.
Is there any traffic going out those sets of doors where you were?
I stopped everybody from leaving until the police came. I wouldn't let anybody leave
Why was that?
because I was afraid somebody might get hurt.
Did you ever go outside those? Okay, that's it for your tests. Good luck.